So, Dimitri, Justin Trudeau shows up on CNN. I'm not sure. Is this the farewell tour that he's on now? Is he going to start doing these, you think, every other day or week? Or what do you think?
He can do them every day. He can do them once a week. He can do them as often as he wants. It is the farewell tour unless, and I'm not here to quote the Conservative leader, some common sense prevails and he walks over to the Governor General, calls an election, and a few weeks after President Trump is sworn in, a new prime minister will also be sworn in. But that's not going to happen, Aaron. So Prime Minister Trudeau went to Washington today for President Carter's funeral. On CNN, he confirmed that even though he was just a few feet away from President-elect Donald Trump, the two did not speak, which is not good news. We are at a stage where we have provincial premiers playing the role of Captain Canada, where the role of Captain Canada, its exclusive rights belong with the man who's supposed to carry the country on his shoulders. The Liberal Party, we're still waiting for the rules for their leadership race. There's one candidate that has announced, a backbench MP from the Ottawa area, Dominic LeBlanc, who I saw as the biggest threat to the Conservative Party, yesterday announced that he will not be seeking the leadership of the Liberal Party of Canada.
Hold on, I want to stop you. You thought he would be the biggest threat to the Conservatives winning, Dominic LeBlanc, if he ran?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. Number one, between Mark Carney and his $1 million suits, Chrystia Freeland, who was finance minister for the last several years and basically held the pen to the government's fiscal record, is the other option. Those are the presumable two front runners, although I'm not convinced Mark Carney will run. Maybe he will, maybe he don't. What I'm hearing from people around him is that he's still mulling it over. So why do I think Dominic LeBlanc was the greatest threat to the Conservatives? So he's from New Brunswick. He is fluently bilingual. He would have been able to salvage seats for the Liberals in Quebec and in the Maritimes. He is probably the most retail politician or potential contender that the Liberals could have had in the upcoming federal election. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is, when a politician shakes your hand, looks at you in the eyes, taps you on the shoulder, you either feel something or you get it right away that it's fake. Well, Dominic LeBlanc is a retail politician. I'm not saying he would have beat the Conservatives. I'm not saying he would have brought the Conservatives down to a minority government. I think that ship has potentially sailed, and it's irreversible in terms of coming back and anything else other than a Conservative majority.
Well, hold on. Wouldn't you have tarred him with the same brush as someone who was, in the Trudeau cabinet for so many years, a close personal friend to boot? He would have basically ended up with the same fate as someone like a Chrystia Freeland, wouldn't he?
So, short answer is, if I was on the Conservative side, I would have tried to absolutely tar him with the same brush. The challenge is he would have been able to potentially better defend and deflect.
Okay.
Chrystia Freeland, if I were giving her advice, her biggest weakness is communication. She does not excel in political communications, which means every single attack she would not have been able to deflect. Whereas Dominic LeBlanc is a good communicator. He is, but he's not there. We're all in the hypothetical.
Okay, no, I understood. Well, let's continue ranking the candidates. I'm enjoying this. So what about someone like a Mélanie Joly? You talk about Quebec. She'd certainly be able to win the Quebec votes. So what do you think about her?
So if I was Mélanie Joly or François-Philippe Champagne, I would run with two objectives. The first objective would be to run in order to build myself a national organization. And the second objective, I hope you're sitting down, Aaron, it would be to run and lose, to not win the leadership of the Liberal Party of Canada. Why? Well, the next leader will be a sacrificial lamb, and the Liberals will show their next leader the door faster than you can snap your fingers.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's another challenge. The Liberal Party has an unwritten rule of alternates, basically changing from Anglophone to Francophone leaders. Justin Trudeau from Quebec. Therefore, it is the turn of an English Canada liberal to be the leader of the party. And I remember back in the 1980s, I'll tell you an anecdote. Jean Chrétien was running against John Turner the first time in 1984, and Jean Chrétien did not win that leadership race. I'm sure he's very glad because he subsequently won the second time and then became Prime Minister of Canada for a decade. And back then, Jean Chrétien used to go around because he was getting support in British Columbia, Alberta, in the Maritimes, but Quebecers were not supporting him. Quebecers were not supporting Jean Chrétien because they were saying, well, it's the turn of somebody from English Canada. And he used to say, well, you have two choices. You can pick the best candidate or the English guy. And guess what they did? They picked the English guy.
Mm-hmm. I want to throw one name at you as well. We were talking about this earlier with Jim Many, and I got a couple of texts suggesting the same thing. Someone actually just wrote in and I said, hey, what about the idea of trying to convince Doug Ford to run for the Liberal leadership?
Doug Ford is a conservative.
Yeah, but so, Jean Charest, what's the difference? Jean Charest was going to run for leader of the Conservative. He's a Liberal. So what?
I don't see Premier Ford, and I'll bet you a nickel on this. Premier Ford in the next couple of weeks is going to be calling a provincial election in Ontario. So the next Ontario provincial election is scheduled for 2026, June of 2026. He will call a snap election before the next federal election in order to basically campaign on the unpopularity of Justin Trudeau and campaign on him all of a sudden becoming Captain Canada. We have a provincial premier being Captain Canada. We have a federal prime minister who has lost the compass of defending the country. And we have the Liberal Party trying to figure out where the washrooms are in order to declare the rules for the leadership race. So we're in a bit of a mess right now, Aaron.
Did you say, was that a complete, let's forget the part about conservative liberal. If he wanted to, he's drawing the most attention now. You used the words Captain Canada. Others have as well in terms of pushing back against Donald Trump. You know the old saying, Dimitri, strike while the iron is hot. Well, the iron's pretty hot right now for Doug Ford. Don't you think this would be an opportunity for him to say, hey, you know what? Might as well take my shot now because it's probably not going to get better than this at any point.
Well, knowing Premier Ford, I don't think he's just going to toss his principles into the incinerator. And if you're going to do that, you might as well toss your principles in the incinerator to go and win. What is he going to run for the Liberal leadership race so he could lose the federal election?
Well, no, because if he ran for the Liberals, he might win an election. And what he'll say is instead of, tossing his principles, as you say, he'd simply say, we're going to move, with me as head of this Liberal Party, I'm going to move us a lot farther to the right as opposed to the left or more into the middle. And that's enough to get some people who don't really like Pierre Poilievre but would consider voting Conservative to consider voting for someone like a Doug Ford if that's what his mandate's going to be.
Well, two things. Number one, in the end of the year annual review of the premiers, he was the second least popular premier. Having said that,
that was then. This is now.
And my second point is, all those who think this is a good idea, they can lie down and the feeling will go away.
Okay, I will leave it at that. It's always a pleasure, Dimitri. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.